We're going to start this with a quote from my man Napoleon Hill. I don't really know who he is. I think he's like a philosopher. Girl, I don't fucking know. I don't care. Some old white man that people highly regard, like the 47th president. Every adversity, every failure, every heartbreak carries with it a seed of an equal or greater benefit. Hey bestie, welcome to the Own Your Era podcast. I have certain podcasts that I put on and they make me feel like I'm talking to a bestie. I have a really hard time, this is so random, saying best friend. Part of this is my only child syndrome and maybe I'm a little bit weird and we love that. If something is the best, there can maybe only be one best, and I don't understand people that have all these best friends. So to me, like, I can have besties because I'm not saying that is my best friend. I'm calling besties. Anybody else? Honestly, slide into my DMs over at _Yolanda Russell on Instagram if you can relate to any of that. We're gonna own eras, and maybe you will relate to some of these eras, maybe you won't. This episode today is not how I intended to start this podcast and to kick it off. I fully intended to restart this with an episode of redefining 40 and being in my 40-year-old era, because I did something quite unconventional when I turned 40. But that's not where I'm being led to start this. This is really raw, and I'm gonna do my best not to get emotional behind it, because in my heart, honestly, feel like at this point I've cried enough about it and I'm just ready to share it. I should tell you, the tea is I am officially unemployed as of yesterday. A bitch is unemployed. What are they called? Doodly employed, or like there's some word, I don't know what it is. But anyway, I am a free fucking agent. My first reaction is not to frantically start figuring it out. My first reaction is sit down, get clarity. What do I want? And to have a little bit of space to do that. This morning, I woke up. I've been up since like 2:50 something. I don't have to rush to get to anything today. It's just a wait. And I said yesterday, I was like, I feel relieved. I feel a bit relieved because I wasn't going to make this decision for myself. And that's another great lesson too. Girl, pull the fucking Band-Aid off. And when you have faith, you're going to be okay. Do you want to take 2 to 3 business days and cruise in this space that I'm currently in, which is I really don't have a responsibility to somebody else right now. I just have the responsibility to myself. And most importantly, I have the responsibility of strengthening my relationship and my faith every day. And I get to have space to do so. And it's going to be okay. To be quite honest, I've always been a free agent. I am not a W-2 employee. I have not been a W-2 employee for now the last 9 years, which is insane to think about. I went to college, I did all the things by the books, and I really have been generating either my own income and then being a contractor inside of a company for, like almost 4 years, which that's like a whole nother thing to get into. I think we're young. At 40 still young, bitch, okay? I feel young, and I also just feel like I get a 3-year itch. And so maybe when I think about like where did it start, it's probably like a year that I've just been needing to make a change. And I told my therapist, I was like, my boyfriend got this resume writer for me, and I just can't sit down to get it together and do it. And she said, well, Yolanda, it sounds like you were wanting somebody else to make the decision for you. Well, bitch, guess what? The motherfucking decision was made for me yesterday. And I'm sure prior even to that. I have nothing but great things to say about the company. And, it's a journey of processing all these emotions. It's humbling. It is scary. I want to say it's embarrassing, but feeling embarrassing in the fact of like, oh, maybe I wasn't excelling enough to like show my worth. And girl, if there's anything that I want to help you learn how to do is understand that you are so worthy of what you want in your life. Many of us walk around playing it small, sugarcoating what we actually want, or not having this insane clarity around what we want. And that's been me for, I'm gonna say, probably at least the last 6 months. There's been something I've wanted, but I've just not been clear about it. I feel so much relief behind it too, even though I have those feelings of shame and guilt and questioning my worthiness, but these things are all really easy for me to redirect how I'm thinking about them. I've been in my meditation era. That's for a whole nother podcast. Today, I opened up my insight timer, and the quote is from Napoleon Hill. Every adversity, every failure, every heartbreak carries with it a seed of an equal or greater benefit. Oh, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Okay. I've read that book. I think I know the secret, but I have a hard time getting through the book because I just feel like they keep repeating the same thing over and over again. I am committed to focusing on the building, the unexpected, the greater benefit that I wholeheartedly trust is going to come to me in all of this. And this is so cliche, but God works in mysterious ways. Last weekend, my boyfriend was going out of town, which I wasn't going to have a car. And so I rented a Toro. And a Toro for like 3 days is $250 plus whatever gas I need to put in it. I haven't had a car for 8-9 years because I chose to not have a payment, and so that I didn't have to work a real job, or go back to nursing at the time. And I just been kind of minimalist in that sense of my life. On Saturday, I messaged a friend and I'm like, I want to go to church on Sunday because I have this car and I can physically get to church. I got a wax and I went and got a matcha and drank a venti matcha. And I'm pretty caffeine sensitive. And at 12:30 that night, I'm like, why can't I go to bed? Duh, bitch. Hello, you're not a caffeine drinker. I drink my matcha and then I head up to the church. And I'm excited because I'm thinking I'm going to be here early. Because sometimes the church gets so full that you have to go up to the overflow, which is fine. I've been there. But when you walk into this auditorium of this church, it's a vibe. It is something that I personally have just been so scooped up into it, and I can't explain it, but every time I'm in there, in that dark room, around a bunch of strangers, kind of feeling a little bit weird that I'm here, and what does God look like, and are you listening, and do you see me? And the answer is absolutely yes. So finally, I'm sitting in this line for about 10 minutes. I get in and it doesn't say auditorium is full. And this is so synchronous, dude. It doesn't say auditorium is full today. So I get to walk in. I walk in and immediately I see a seat. So I'm like, okay, cool. I sit on the end of this row. And as I'm sitting on the end of that row and we're getting ready to start the service, she's like the event coordinator or someone gets on the stage and she says, hey, do us a favor and can you slide in so as your neighbors are coming in that they don't have to try to climb over top of you. So I scooched in, and it's weird because I watched a lot of people not move, and I considered not moving but something was just like, be different, show up, just be different. Today just feels different. And so I scoot over and now there's space for 2 seats. And service starts, they always start with music, and it's a vibe. The church that I go to here in Austin, it is a bit lit, and I really have enjoyed it. So I'm now 3 seats into this row that I'm sitting in, and this woman walks in, and she's just got this energy, and I can't explain it, but her energy was just big. She just had this presence about her, and it was super potent. And we kind of had, a little normalcy, like, hey, the traffic was so bad. And as service started, I started recording Pastor Ethan in this one part of the service. And she looked at me and she's like, oh, you're going to have to airdrop that to me. And so we airdrop it. And this is literally the extent of our interactions for the whole 1.5 hours of the service, okay? And I also saw her with her notepad out, and I really like to take notes, but it's with my app. And she was just on her phone, taking notes, and it just felt like I had permission to take notes. I am so moved in this service today. Just everything was speaking to me about wanting to change the world and feeling called to God.
If you seek him, you'll find him. Your soul is longing for him. Keep seeking. I need to finally give my life to him and accept his grace and his mercy and just walk in relationship with him.
And at the end of this, they asked a question. This woman's energy gave me the sense that she didn't say this. We did not exchange that many words, but her energy just gave me this feeling of, girl, raise your hand. You're supposed to be here. Do it. And it's fine. I have my eyes closed. So I can't even see what's going on around me. The first question was, are you ready to put your faith in Jesus and to walk with him? And if that's you, raise your hand, because I want to give you a prayer. And so I raised my hand, and I'm just bawling. I'm like this. The second question was if you needed a miracle in so few words. And so it essentially was if you have some sort of illness or infertility going on right now and you need a prayer, raise your hand. And so people put their hands up. That one didn't speak to me. And then the third question was, raise your hand if you want to walk with Jesus and change the world. And the whole sermon was about changing the world. And I raised my hand. I have my tears streaming down my face, whatever, service is over, walk out. And the woman that was sitting beside me, she just turns around and she says, have a great weekend. And it was all so small, but I can't explain how impactful it all was. I just made this commitment and it's exciting. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. And this absolute stranger, which again, I know it's not coincidental, just sealed it all in for me. And that's the power of God. I don't know if it's God or Jesus, to be honest. But being able to show up and allow him to work through you. And oftentimes, many of us are searching for purpose, and myself included. I felt so just stuck and stagnant in so many areas of my life. And so I started moving my body more and running, and that's been really impactful. And then adding the faith on top of this has been so impactful. So Monday comes around, I have this meeting with my boss at 3:00. And I look at my boyfriend, who had been on a hunting trip all weekend, just getting home. He's super hungover. And I say, I had this meeting with my boss, and I just have this feeling I'm not going to have a job after. Legitimately, I said these words. These were the words coming out of my mouth. Wild. And I get on the call, and it's a Zoom. And the first person that I see on there, I immediately was like, I know what this is. Just in my head, even before I got on the call, I was thinking to myself, don't cry, don't cry. I really didn't want to show any emotion, but of course I showed emotion. And it's essentially that my job is being eliminated. And it makes sense, and I get it. And as I said, there are no hard feelings. I have nothing but great things to say about the company, and they have been so helpful. I have to return this laptop to them though. Which is fine, and it's scary, but I did raise my hand to Jesus. And I feel like he has just been waiting for me. And as soon as I made the commitment and I publicly declared it in the sense of, I'm in church, I'm doing this, I am here, I'm in the scene, that he was like, let's go. Let's go. And I can look at this as, this could not have come at a more inopportune time. Ralphie was sick. We took him to a specialist all the way in Houston 2 weeks ago now, maybe? Or no, just a week ago. This January has been wild. It's been crazy. And so I have this huge vet bill. I just have bills in general. And I'm not somebody that has 3 months of my income saved up, because I typically need all my pennies, and I'm not the best at saving money. And between Ralphie's experience and now this, it's little lessons. Look at the little girlfriend, dial this in. But I'm choosing not to be ashamed of this. I'm choosing to speak about it, to be open about it. I'm not the first person that's ever going to have their job eliminated and be in this position of, like, what am I going to do now? And hearing people talk about the job market and how hard it is to get a job. But when I was talking to my boyfriend about this yesterday, I'm like, do you still love me? Like, just looking for that reassurance, right? Like, it's going to be okay. You're fine. He's worked for the same company for the last 13 years. And he's younger than I am. And I asked him, if this was you, how would you feel? And he was like, well, I'd be really scared and nervous. But for me, it's a little bit of a different feeling. Yes, I have that. But girl, I've been a contracted employee and somebody making and earning my own income for the last 9 years. I'm resourceful. And I know that I most likely can get online and say something like, hey, I am taking 3 clients this month. And I can not even price gouge because I need money, but it's because I have many highly valuable skill sets that people are paying money for. And something that we talked about in this, I don't know if you call it an exit interview, a let going session, whatever you want to call it, was that my creativity. And that in my creativity and working inside this company, it's almost like I've been sacrificing my creativity and putting myself second and not like really going out here and seeing what the big thing is that I can do. And I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm asking God every day, show me, help me surrender and allow you to work through me, please. That's the prayer. This is also really weird, but my boyfriend ordered Chinese yesterday, and we get our little fortune cookies, and his said something, and it was so specific. It was like, this Monday, you're going to make a dynamic impact on the world or something. And I've been sharing these little snippets of my faith journey and how it's developed, and I go live on Instagram, and that goes over to my Facebook, and tend to forget that it will go over to Facebook, and I have just floods of love and people really connecting and reaching out, and it's just, this has been such a way to make connections. I know the fact that I can hit record on a camera, on a podcast somewhere, and I can openly share and do my best to articulate what I'm going through, what I'm learning, all that someone potentially can say, oh my gosh, I'm there right now. Or, my goodness, I have been through that. Here's my hand, let me help you. I think that this is how I impact the world. I know, maybe I should have waited for days or weeks to share this, but that's just not how I operate, because I believe a lot of people on the internet specifically that we might look at and they have it all figured out, they don't share this raw. They don't give you the tea. And I think a lot of people want tea and want to be able to say, hey, it's allowed to be messy. And I'm fine with inviting people to the mess. Like, hey girl, this is the mess. I'm in it. I'm in it, and I'm going to take you with me so that when I am finally on the other side of all this, you're going to know it wasn't like Yolanda snapped her fingers and then all of a sudden like her life was transformed. It's going to be, whoa, that bitch went through it, okay? She was going through it. Maybe you're going through it, and it is going to be okay. Every adversity, every failure, every heartbreak carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. And girl, I'm putting my faith in God and Jesus, and I'm going to be okay. If you needed this message today, if you've been through this, I'd love to hear from you. But all of this for me has been a really great reminder. You don't own a position. You don't own a title unless you create it for yourself. Is all you're ever going to have a say in, period. And this is not on any shade to anyone. Whether you work in corporate America and you love it, get a side hustle. Whether you are 1099 and you have a steady income, have a side hustle, have a backup, have skills, or be learning skills that you can take and apply, and people are going to be willing to pay you for. I'm really excited to see where I am in 3 months from now. Who knows? But I do know that what I've been making in a month, I have made 3 times that in a single month before. I know that I can do this. I know that I'm going to be okay. God just said, it's time to go. The mess is the message. Whatever you're walking through, know that you're not alone and it's going to be okay. Give the podcast a follow, actually subscribe to it. And I'm really pumped to help you own your era and wherever you are and whatever you're doing and whatever your heart so feels called to. I love you.